Studio G and fighting for you from the Foxhole of Freedom. Here we go into another brand new hour. Here's a warning for you, a trigger warning. The Steve Gruber Show often results in extended periods of American pride, American optimism, uncontrollable enthusiasm about America's future. Kicking off a live broadcast and Real America's Voice, MTN, and reaching a growing global audience, this is the Steve Gruber Show. Good to have you here. Three big things to know this hour. Number one, the United States and China have struck a deal on trade. It's a big deal. The market's already reflecting positively. The Dow's going to open up hundreds of points. Good news and a Trump win. Number two, Ukraine's President Zelensky says he will roll the dice and meet directly with Russian President Putin on Thursday at the urging of President Trump. Another major win, if true. And number three, Democrats have played their hand. They care more about illegal aliens than you, than me, than the rule of law, than the interests of the country they were elected to serve. Pretty sad. We already knew that based on their staunch defense of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, or as they say on MSNBC and CNN, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. I don't know why they do that, but they do that. It's weird. The MS-13 gang member they painted as the so-called Maryland man, but they proved it yet again over the weekend. Yes, they did. You see, Democrat members of Congress got into a scuffle with ICE agents on Friday. And the arrest of the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, who was charged with trespassing at an ICE detention center that they rushed. The lawmakers were protesting the opening of the center. It was quite the riot. You can see Representative LaMonica McIver there in the red blazer, for those of you watching. She and several others, including New Jersey Representatives Bonnie Watson-Coleman, Rob Menendez, along with Newark's Mayor Ross Baraka, all being accused of trespassing and worse, assaulting ICE officers on site. Homeland Security's spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin says lawmakers should not be able to terrorize law enforcement on the taxpayer's dime. I agree. Here she is.
You know, there are some folks, speaking of getting arrested, there's some folks who said, you shouldn't be arresting the mayor of Newark. Wasn't there a way to sort of de-escalate this without having him arrested? What do you say about that?
If it was a typical U.S. citizen and they tried to storm into a detention facility that's housing dangerous criminals or any person at all, they would be arrested. Just because you are a member of Congress or just because you are a public official does not mean you are above the law. We will continue. If you assault a law enforcement officer, we will also make sure you answer to justice. So I think that arrests are still on the table for this. This is an ongoing investigation.
Mayor Baraka released after being arrested Friday for trespassing, but like McLaughlin said, we could see the other lawmakers involved be taken into custody shortly. And just what was Mayor Baraka's response? Deny, deflect, and repeat. Here he is.
Nobody stormed the place. The only storming happened is when, that we all know when those guys stormed the Capitol and was arrested for what they did and were released.
Yeah, there you have it. It's the only card these guys have. Baraka says that his fight has to do with fighting for due process and detention standards. Well, here's the border czar Tom Homan and his response. Listen.
Well, look, he's not very smart. I mean, bottom line is that's what the facility's all about. This facility's about due process. This facility is where we put illegal aliens, people in the country illegally, first of all. If they're in the country illegally, they're being detained. And they were screaming and yelling about due process and 14 and all this in the Constitution. This is where due process happens. We have to detain them to go through the due process. Sometimes seeing a judge, sometimes they already have final orders. It's ranging removal to their countries, to getting travel documents to their countries, and making sure all the administrative processes are followed. So this is exactly what the facility means. And I'll tell you this. I can guarantee you this facility has higher detention standards than any New Jersey facility. This facility has highest detention standards in the industry. You compare that to any jail in New Jersey, and you'd be shocked how high these detention standards are.
Now, these rioters stormed the facility as a bus of detainees was entering the grounds. They put themselves, the officers, and those illegals at risk of something bad happening because of their behavior. And they're setting an example for their supporters, of course, to make a riot over the law being enforced. Also over the weekend, a neighborhood in Massachusetts up in arms as neighbors made a scene over an illegal migrant woman's arrest, endangering the officers and their own neighborhood there. 2 people were arrested in the scuffle, including a woman who stood in front of an ICE vehicle with her baby in tow and proceeded to kick the vehicle. She's been charged with child endangerment. Seems accurate. These people are nuts, but their behavior is being validated by elected officials just like the ones we discussed. You know what President Trump is doing in the meantime? Nothing but good for the American people, specifically right now for homeless veterans. That's right, President Trump signed an executive order to create the National Center for Warrior Independence in Los Angeles, focused on helping homeless veterans get back on their feet. The idea is to offer a one-stop place for housing, healthcare, job training, and addiction recovery, all aimed at helping vets become independent again. Promises made, promises kept. Here was Trump on the campaign trail. Listen.
Under Kamala Harris, American veterans are treated worse by far than illegal aliens. Illegal aliens are treated. You ever see them? They stay in hotels. We have veterans sleeping on the street, and inside luxury hotels, you have people that came into our country, many from prisons, many from mental institutions, many terrorists, and they are treated better than our veterans. They don't care about our veterans. As borders are, Kamala has spent over $1 billion of taxpayer money to house illegal aliens and foreign migrants in some of the most expensive housing and hotels anywhere in the country. Meanwhile, more than 41,000 homeless American veterans are living in squalor on our streets. I mean, I hope you people are going to remember this because it's terrible.
Yeah, they're going to remember. Trump didn't forget. He didn't forget about the promises, the priorities he was going to honor when he was elected again in November, all while he's tackling massive issues at home and abroad. Lots of big-ticket items on the agenda this week. President Trump is heading to the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar to lock in some massive investments for America's infrastructure, AI, and energy. He's bringing home the bacon like nobody else can. Last time he crushed it with the Abraham Accords, getting Israel and Arab nations to shake hands in 2020. And this term, he's already secured a ceasefire with the Houthis, keeping those Red Sea lanes open and safe. Now, we'll talk about the Peace for Strength initiative coming up here in a minute, but there is a bit of an issue as he heads overseas, and that is the concern over a jet that's been offered him by the royal family of Qatar, a $400 million gift, a $400 million gift. We'll talk about that. Should he get a 747-8 that's coming to the United States that's going to be then transferred to the Trump Library? I've got a poll up on it on X. I encourage you to go look. Please do. But before I get to that, some things are worth being bold about. If you're tired of weak, mass-produced coffee, it's time to revolt. 1775 Coffee delivers single-origin, high-altitude, hand-picked perfection. Bold, dark roast, smooth, medium. Even a Vitality mushroom blend for unstoppable focus. It really is cool. No corporate virtue signaling, no watered-down nonsense, just premium 85-plus cupping score coffee. 85-plus cupping score. Yeah, that's right. It's great coffee. Fuels warrior patriots and people who stand for something like me and like you. Go to 1775 Coffee. 1775coffee.com. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save 10%. And remember, every dollar you spend enters you to win a Tesla Cybertruck and $30,000 in cash. 1775 Coffee. Bold, strong, uncompromising. Yeah, you're going to be pleased you found this right here. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll continue with the conversation about what's happening this week in the White House, in the world, in America. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so back to it now. As Trump heads to the Middle East, a lot to accomplish there. By the way, I go back to the 747-8, the palace in the sky being offered apparently to the United States by the nation of Qatar and its royal family. $400 million gift. Good idea or bad idea? I'm doing a poll right now on X. And for the first time, I'm not seeing President Trump do very well here. Overall, 45% think it's a bad idea or potentially corrupt. Only 32% think it's a good idea. Where do you come down? Weigh in. Go to my account on X, follow, and get involved with the conversation. Now, the Saudi Crown Prince has already promised an investment of $600 billion into the United States, and Trump says he plans on scoring even more deals. I tend to believe him. When these are just a handful of the latest investments in the United States, to the tune of $60 billion, and there's more to come. But first this, back to the big investments in America. Big players like Gilead, Inverent Energy, Merck, Lego, Hotpack, Bristol-Myers Squibb pouring serious cash into the country. Pharma company Gilead dropping $11 billion to build 3 new facilities and upgrade 3 others, aiming to create 800 direct jobs and 2,200 indirect jobs by 2028. Also on the pharma front, Merck's investing $1 billion in a new Delaware plant to ramp up domestic drug production, responding to tariff pressures. Bristol-Myers Squibb committing $40 billion over 5 years, zeroing in on radiopharmaceuticals and AI-driven drug development. Now wait, big pharma equals bad, right? Well, we'll always need pharmaceuticals in a modern society, but at least now they're being manufactured in America, not in China, our known enemy. And the good news is this: Donald Trump is about to sign an executive order that will bring the cost of prescription drugs down. It has the Democrats scrambling, not remembering what to do next. They are scared because Donald Trump's taking card after card out of their play deck and playing it himself. And remember what I said about promises made and promises kept. How about Donald Trump just last month? Here is what he said. Listen.
But we're going to tariff our pharmaceuticals, and once we do that, they're going to come rushing back into our country because we're the big market. The advantage we have over everybody is that we're the big market. So we're going to be announcing very shortly a major tariff on pharmaceuticals, and when they hear that, they will leave China, they will leave other places because they have to sell. Most of their product is sold here.
It's almost like he knows what he's doing because that's what happened. Additionally, Invenergy is investing a massive $7 billion clean energy push, including wind and solar projects with a focus on sustainable power across states like Illinois. Hotpack's expanding with a $50 million facility in Texas, creating 200 jobs for eco-friendly packaging. This is how clean energy is supposed to work. You get these companies to invest in the United States, not use taxpayer dollars to force or subsidize companies into your woke green agenda. These moves show that companies are betting big on U.S. growth during huge global trade shifts. This after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent wrapped up trade talks with China and Geneva, Switzerland over the weekend. And with good news, dropping tariffs from 145% to 30%. China dropping its tariffs to 10%. All good news. The market very happy. Even before the talks began, President Trump wrote on Truth Social he was considering lowering tariffs to 80%, down from 145% if we could get a deal. It went far better than he thought, and he left it up to Bessent to make the call, which he did. Now, while the skeptics continue to panic about the tariffs' effect on the global market and our economy here at home, Trump's cool as a cucumber. He's winning. Listen.
What parameters have you given Scott Bessent on negotiating with China this weekend?
We have to make a great deal for America.
Are you going to be disappointed if he comes back without a deal?
No, not at all, because we already made a great deal. We're not doing business with China right now.
Given your relationship,
You know, we lost $1 trillion last year with China, $1 trillion. So if you're not going to do business with them, you're not going to lose $1 trillion. But we lost. I want China to do great. You know, I'm very friendly with President Xi. I have great respect for him and for China, but we can't continue to allow them to do what they did.
Yeah, and apparently that has worked out. We'll have more on that coming up in the program. Trump continues to deliver win after win, week after week, all for Americans. All Americans, whether they voted for him or not. So the constant whine and panic from his critics that's background noise to him. Doesn't seem too worried. He's got the gold standard cabinet because while all of this was going down, his top negotiators like Secretary of State Marco Rubio, they secured a ceasefire deal between India and Pakistan, 2 countries that have nuclear weapons, right? Some cross-border shelling has continued despite the ceasefire, but it's already cooling down as we speak, better than it was. Can you imagine if Kamala Harris was in the White House right now, or her former boss, Sleepy Joe? There'd be no ceasefire, no path to peace. More likely there'd be billions of U.S. dollars bleeding out to sustain the fighting. How do I know? Because the war in Gaza reached its fever pitch under Joe Biden. The war in Russia and Ukraine dragged on during his entire presidency. And what did we do? Sent billions of dollars. But under the Trump administration, all it took was a weekend of negotiating. No boots on the ground, no money sent overseas. I'll chalk that up as a win. And if you'd like some more good news to start your Monday off, inflation is cooling. The consumer price index dropping to 2.4%, down from 2.8%. Gas prices are down. I saw several stations in the $2.80 range near my home over the weekend. The national average down to $3.12. The relief at the pump easing price pressures for all consumers. Yeah. It's a good week to be an American, at least for those of us who love our country and want to see it succeed. So while Trump delivers win after win, the Democrats can continue making fools of themselves. Speaking of, you've heard it before, we were back listening to this again over the weekend, Ivy and I were. Capitalism is evil. Capitalism is freedom. Wait, what is capitalism? It's a good question. Everyone's talking about it. Shouldn't you at least understand it? That's where Hillsdale College comes in. They're offering a brand new free online course, Understanding Capitalism. It's great. We were back listening to it again over the weekend. In just 7 fascinating lectures, you'll dive into profit and loss, human nature, freedom, why capitalism isn't a system of greed, it's a system of morality and liberty. That's just one of the over 40 free online courses you can find at Hillsdale. No tuition, my friends, no strings. If you go there right now, you're going to love what you find. It's one after another. If you can binge watch on Netflix, you can binge watch this and learn a hell of a lot more. Gruber for Hillsdale.com, trust me. Easy to enroll, it's free, and it's ready when you are. Gruber for Hillsdale.com, Gruber, Gruber for Hillsdale.com. It was good fun. We did that on the way back and forth to picking morel mushrooms. Yeah, we scored big. Finally, we got it done. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Good to see you. We'll be right back. All right, we'll get poll results here on X. Here's the question today. Qatar offering President Trump a 747-8. The Palace in the Sky, as it is called. It's a beautiful jet. What do you think? Good idea, 31%. Bad idea, 28%. Sounds corrupt, 14%. And waiting to see is at 26%. So bad idea, sounds corrupt is at 42%. Good idea, 31%. People are not convinced of this deal yet. So here's the deal. It's called the Palace in the Sky. If you look it up online, it is a remarkable 747-8 Boeing jet. The problem is Donald Trump has, in his first term, put together a deal for 2 brand new Boeings to be 2 brand new Air Force One jets. But they're being delayed, they're behind schedule, they're over cost, all of this. He's not impressed. So when the nation of Qatar, the royal family, says, hey, we'll give you this 747-8, it's worth $400 million, he says, well, let's look at that. We'll find out if he accepts it when he goes to the Middle East in the next few days. Here's the question, though. Must he get consent from Congress? Some say yes. It's a $300 to $400 million jet, and they say he must get approval from Congress. I don't know if you need approval from Congress from the Statue of Liberty or other big gifts that America gets, the Resolute desk. I don't know. But that's the argument they're making right now.
I have a question.
All right, what's your question?
You think something like that could be bugged or like?
You know, I was thinking the same thing. It's funny you should say that. What if the plane is booby-trapped?
Yeah, that was my first thought.
Good thought, Anthony. Yeah, that's what I was saying. What if it was bugged or was somehow compromised? You know, the president's flying home and the plane. It's a fair question. Do you trust it? And how would you find out? How would you know? I mean, these planes are so sophisticated, right? It's a great question. Well, what do you think? Jump on X. Tell me what you think. Good idea, bad idea? It's corrupt, waiting to see. You don't know. Something to think about, though. Is the plane compromised? Anthony's question and mine. It's the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back. Exactly what I thought. Well, it seems that Scott Bessent and his team have secured a deal with China on trade. Intense talks, Geneva, Switzerland over the weekend. After Saturday, they said, well, we've made a lot of progress. They thought a deal could happen. Now we're learning in the last little while that a deal has apparently occurred after 2 intense days. That'll reduce tariffs from 145% on incoming Chinese products to 30%. American products going there will have only a 10% tariff barrier. The market reacting quite well in the futures trading, up hundreds of points in the way it should open about 800 points up. We'll see. It could take off. Great guns today. I don't know, but my next guest might have an inkling. Terry Sawchuk is the founder of Sawchuk Wealth. He's with me now. Terry, nice to see you today.
Good morning, Steve. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. So let's see. The recession on hold. China looking good. The market a little stronger. But look, we still got concerns in the future. But look, this is a big win. If this holds, and this is true, they put a pause on for 90 days. So this is where we are for 90 days from what I read, right? You're reading the same things. Feel pretty good about it?
Yeah, I guess you have to take this from a couple different lenses, right? The first lens is I think what Trump is doing long term is going to be great for the country. We've talked about this, you and I have, a lot, and we like the direction things are moving. From a market standpoint, we're just now getting back to where we were before Liberation Day, right? So if you think about it from that perspective, all we've done is, for the most part, regain the losses that were, kind of a temper tantrum over the tariffs. And so now we're going to get to a place where we're going to see how much higher this market can move. And as happy as I am today about where things are, I'm a little cautious that once we get back to where we were at the highs, we might not be able to push a whole lot higher.
Well, and that's a fair thing. But for people that are retirees or about to retire, being back to even is probably a pretty good feeling today. I mean, the indigestion is gone, right?
It definitely feels better than it did a few weeks ago, right?
That's for sure.
Down 20-something%.
Let me ask
I'm
you about
concerned, though,
here.
Steve, in just looking at the 10-year Treasury is creeping back up. It's now at almost 4.4%.
Good
the
or
U.S.
bad?
dollar's been. What's that?
Is that good or bad?
I don't think it's good. I mean, here's the problem: is that we've got $9 trillion worth of debt that needs to be refinanced over the course of the second half of this year. And when you look at that, you really have two ways to do this. One is that over the long term, you can get the market to push rates down. And by the way, that could happen, right? I think this is the plan coming out of Bessent and the administration, is that the deal with China, some of these other things, the fiscal responsibility, it's going to show that the adults are back in the room and that we can actually get some of the spending under control with Doge and everything else. And if that happens, then we get the long-term rates down. Then they really don't need the Fed to do much because the long end of the curve will take care of itself. The problem is if that doesn't happen, now you're relying on Powell, and I don't think he's trustworthy as far as the Trump administration is concerned.
It wouldn't seem so. Look, anybody who has, I don't know how many people have variable rate mortgages anymore, but you've got credit card interest and mortgages, first-time home buyers, all those things are impacted by what the Fed does when it comes to interest rates, for sure. I mean, mortgages are still at 7%. It's a stubborn place to be, and people don't want to spend that kind of money. Let me ask you about this, because you go to the internet and you see, empty shelves everywhere. I don't see any empty shelves. And then the other hysterical headlines about how, the tourist industry in America is crashing. Nobody's coming to America anymore. And so I go look it up. Yeah, okay, Europeans coming to America is down like 4%. Okay, maybe that's it. But 4%, which means 96% are still coming. So the hysteria and these headlines have me going, okay, what should I believe, Terry?
I wouldn't believe anything you read when it comes to stuff like that, Steve.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I was a week ago Friday, I was in New York City. I was on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Right. And my wife and I bopped around. I hadn't been there since the World Trade Center was up, right? So it's been a long time.
Right.
I couldn't believe how busy it was. And by the way, the majority of people that were there were foreign. They weren't. So especially in the Park Avenue, Madison Avenue, all that, Midtown, the nice areas. So, I would argue that's nonsense. And the same thing with the empty shelves. I don't think any of that was ever true. I think it was all just scare tactics trying to undermine, public support for what Trump's trying to do. And America's figuring it out. It doesn't work anymore. Nobody believes that garbage. And I think it's a sign that we're moving in the right direction.
I agree with that. Now, having said all that, and that's all very positive, and I'll check the future numbers here in a second again to see where we are, but you say the real risk continues to be in the back half of this year because it's not all settled. You're still looking at, the interest rates that are higher than you'd like, and a lot of government jobs are being eliminated. As we know, I do know this for sure. The housing market in D.C. has gotten real easy because the demand on housing in D.C. has gone down dramatically, which means prices are better. If you want to buy a house in D.C., I don't know why you would, but if you did, now would be the time, right?
Yeah, I think that's that's the bigger picture stuff, right? So there's a couple things that we have to think about. With all the re-onshoring and everything that we're trying to do, the private sector is going to have to absorb all these jobs. And
Sure.
and we had, I mean, if you look at the number of jobs that were created either directly for the government or through contract work, it's almost 10 million jobs, right? So that's not necessarily going to be the easiest thing for the private sector to pick up right away. And then if you add, Steve, and nobody's talking about this yet, but I think it's going to be an issue. Again, second half of this year into the first half of next year, I think AI is going to eat into some of these white collar jobs. And the problem there is that the people that are losing those jobs aren't going to find anywhere to get them back necessarily. And so these could create some pretty significant headwinds for the markets. Again, long term, I think what Trump is doing is great, and I'm super optimistic that we are going to see another golden era. But the problem is, over the next 6 to 12 months, especially the back half of this year, it's going to be really important to protect your capital.
Fair enough. And speaking of that, by the way, gas prices down to $3.13, the national average. I saw several stations near my house under $2.80 gas around where I am. So that's good news.
Yep.
But investors need to be in a position where they will be in good shape, whether the market goes up or down. You have a webinar coming up. I think it's tomorrow, actually. At
Tomorrow
6
night,
o'clock.
6 o'clock. Yes, sir.
All right. So tell me, what's that all about?
Well, it's just we call it the America First Built to Last Wealth Management System. And again, we're showing people how important it is to understand market history, to understand risk management. And I keep saying this, and if the market keeps going up, nobody worries about risk management. But I'll tell you, risk management was pretty valuable over the last 5 or 6 weeks as the markets made their way down. And I do think that this isn't the highest probability outcome, but I do think there's a decent chance, Steve, we could see a 20 to 40% drop over the next 6 to 18 months. It's not the highest probability outcome. And if we get more good news like we got this weekend, that could soften that a little bit. But if we don't start to see that 10-year treasury get below 4%, that's where things I think are going to get a little bit dicey.
So that's the concern long term. All right, so the webinar is tomorrow. You guys can get in. It's a live interactive event. The QR code for anybody who's on video streaming right now, you can take that QR code. What's the website if not that?
Believe it or not, it's sawchuckwealth.com
Wow.
/Gruber. Making you famous, buddy.
There you go. sawchuckwealth.com /Gruber. Terry, thank you for that. I mean, nice to hear you a bit more optimistic. Things are a little bit better. We'll see how it plays out. There's never a certainty, though. Things change. Thank you.
Never hurts to take some profits.
That's true. Terry Sawchuck, everybody. Greatly appreciate you today. Again, that webinar is tomorrow. You can go to sawchuckwealth.com /Gruber to find out more. If you missed the QR code, be prepared. I've got a special event I'll be attending this weekend, Salt Lake City, Utah. I'll tell you about it after the break. right, this is Closed Circuit for all you men listening this morning. And ladies, you can listen too, because it's for your benefit as well. But for men out there, I want you to pay attention to the Man in the Arena tour. It's being fronted by my friend Garrett White, founder of Wake Up Warrior, a program for married businessmen to live the warrior's way toward having a life worth having and having it all. Garrett's joining me right now. Garrett, nice to see you again.
Great to be back on the show.
All right, so the Man in the Arena tour, you kick off May 17th, Salt Lake City. I've been telling folks about this. But it's for men that feel like they're maybe out of balance with their marriage or their business, or something's not quite hitting right. It's a chance to get in line with Christian values, with the values of being a real man. Tell me what it's all about.
So one of the challenges that men face across the board is this. Most of us have isolated, particularly in Christian culture. There's a sanitization that's happened across Christianity for men where they can't speak the full truth. And men right now are facing stress and darkness at levels that they've not faced ever before in our society's history. If you take something simple like they're teenagers, I have 2 teenage daughters, I have 2 toddlers, I have a 26-year-old son. The bombardment on their social media, from TikTok to Instagram, is constantly molding their minds. And as a father, we're trying to compete with this. But most of the conversations they're having online are very dark. The bombardment of pornography, the influence of what their gender is, the conversation of what is appropriate, the erosion of morals. Meanwhile, as a man, you're trying to make money, be a father, be a husband, and lead. And in that place, it's complete chaos. And most guys are alone in this. This has actually been the greatest shift in our advertising. We've been doing this for 13 years at Wake Up Warrior. In the last 6 months, for the first time in a decade, our #1 converting ads, or men who are reaching out to Wake Up Warrior, are not coming because of the topic of sex. They're not coming because of the topic of marriage. They're not coming because of the topic of money, which was predominantly the conversation for 10 years. They're coming because they're lost, they're alone, they're scared, and they don't know what to do.
They're looking for direction. They're looking for an anchor, and you're right. You've got pornography, you've got influences, you've got distractions, you've got all these things. Oh, look at this, do that, pay attention to this, all taking away from their family and their business and everything else. Lost, alone, and scared is how you put it. Let me ask you about a term that's been bounced around, well, I think for too long. Toxic masculinity. I don't think we have toxic masculinity. I think we need more real men to stand up and be heard. What do you say?
The rise of feminism had, I think, some pure intent, which was to give women a voice, which I fully support. I have 4 daughters, a wife. I have females that I employ. We run thousands of hairstylists that we train in our hair academies, my wife and I. I am all about empowerment of women. But where the twisted version of feminism came over time was not just the empowerment of women, it was a disempowerment of men. The term toxic masculinity is used as a blanket statement to describe any man who describes or demonstrates any primal energy of being masculine. Intensity, focus, fierceness. Yet these are the energies that founded this country. They're the energies that built empires. They're the energy of kings that have been from the beginning of time. Men have been told that if they show any energy down the dark side of the keyboard, any type of intensity, that this is too much and they need to tone it down. So with this, we've seen this suppression, not just in society, in the church. We've watched men getting softer, quieter, and more contained. And the reason there's such an aloneness and such a rage and such a mental breakdown, most suicides in this country are men right now. And Men's Mental Health Month is covered up by the LGBTQ community. We're now talking about sexuality and ignoring the conversation with men. And yet men now are being told we don't matter. Now, I'm not saying all women are saying this, but this has become a predominant message. And so now as a guy, I'm not only told I can't speak of my darkness, I can't speak with intensity, but I'm now also being told that I'm irrelevant as the message of femininity has twisted itself through feminism, and not just a rise of empowering women, but now women aren't even being taught they don't need men.
Intensity,
and this
focus, and
conversation not only
fierceness.
confuses guys, it has them trapped and lost alone with no idea what to do.
Intensity, focus, and fierceness, just like I just said. You can't have a successful marriage unless you have an intensity and a focus and a fierceness of sorts to defend that marriage, to defend that relationship. Same thing's true in business. And anger is often targeted as a terrible, bad thing in men today, which I don't believe it is. I think anger can be a very good resource if used properly, Garrett. What are people going to learn as part of this Man in the Arena tour?
So what's unique about this experience, here at Wake Up Warrior, we've been running events for men for 13 years. We've had over 70,000 men come through our programs. This is the first time we put on an arena tour where we've combined 8 and 9 of the top men's movements in the country. Men who lead tens of thousands of other men, and they've been doing it for 5 to 10 years. We're combining all of our tribes and combining all of our messaging and the best tools that we have into one experience in one arena, one day. This has never happened before. The last time something like this was attempted was back in the 1990s, called the Promise Keepers. This was a light side of the keyboard conversation. Man in the Arena Tour is an Old Testament meets New Testament experience, because the intensity that men are facing today, they need multiple voices, but they need voices from men who lead men every day. Not just pastors in churches or their therapists or going online and social media and trying to find some short clip reels on Instagram to feel motivated. Motivation's not enough. The intention of the event is a pivot. The intensity of putting thousands of men into one arena with one purpose and one intensity, all unified under a kingdom conversation and the power of God, with one perfect initiative point, which is to pivot this man's reality and to see, as spoken about in the Bible, the renewing of the mind, to shift this man to see that he is not weak. He is not toxic. He is not in a helpless place. He is not a victim. He's not entitled. That God has endowed this man with dominion. This is tough when you watch this as a conversation from the outside to make this integrate on the inside. But when you fly into Utah, you come to May 17th, the Man Arena Tour at Maverick Center, you enter into the initiation with the rest of these men. The intensity of gathering thousands of men with one purpose, all dressed in black, all wearing Man in Arena t-shirts, with the most lethal trainers in the country through an experience.
Life-changing.
This is not a speak-a-thon.
Yeah.
It's an experience together.
ManintheArenaTour.com. I'm going to be there with Garrett White. ManintheArenaTour.com. Don't miss out, men. Be there with us. Garrett, I've got to run. Greatly appreciate you. I'll see you in Salt Lake. got some votes piling up now on our question here today. Let's see. Qatar offering President Trump the 747-8, known as the Palace in the Sky. And if you look at this thing, man, it is stunning. It is opulent. It is incredible. It is a threat. A threat. Do you think it's a threat to have this plane? Anthony and I just talked about it here a bit ago. A good idea, 27.6%. Bad idea, 27%. Sounds corrupt, 11.8%. So the corruption part is coming down. And waiting to see, by far the biggest, getting 33.6, so 34% say waiting to see. A third of us not sure yet. A third of us not sure yet what to make of this deal. What does Qatar want out of this deal? Well, we'll find out. They're on their way to Qatar. Donald Trump is this week. UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, big Middle Eastern trip. Last time he went that way, we got the Abraham Accords, right? So I have a lot of trust in him to get this done right. I hope he does. I hope he gets things in order as far as peace in that zone. All right, so the hottest thing going right now, I just had Dr. Peter McCullough on to discuss this. The hottest thing going from the wellness company by far is the parasite cleanse. Ivermectin, mebendazole. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's a parasite cleanse. Look, could your health issues be caused by an invisible enemy? Fatigue, bloating, brain fog. What if parasites are the real culprit? I was thinking the parasite cleanses when I came across a video from trusted doctors who mentioned that, right? The doctors quote, ivermectin and mebendazole are two powerful anti-pathogens. But what's even more fascinating, these medications are frequently used in oncology to treat cancer. That's right, treat cancer. This stuff is incredible. Ivermectin was demonized during the pandemic. It's not a bad thing. The Wellness Company, twc.health/Gruber. Find out more about these invaders of your system. twc.health/Gruber. By the way, you can watch us live on YouTube. You can watch us live on Facebook. You can watch this program live all over the broadcast and streaming universe. Don't miss a day. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Live from Studio G and fighting for you from the Foxhole Freedom. Here we go into another brand new hour of the Steve Gruber Show. Remember, it can result in extended periods of American pride, optimism, and enthusiasm for America's future. Live in all 50 states and around the world, it's a dirty job, and I'm going to get it done. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, the Democrats already facing the retirement of 4 incumbent senators leading into the 2026 midterm elections also have a major problem in Pennsylvania with Senator John Fetterman. It's getting worse. Number two, President Trump is about to sign a historic agreement to cut the price of prescription drugs, which has left Democrats glassy-eyed and confused on how to respond. And number three, so ABC first reported that President Trump will be accepting a Boeing 747-8 from the royal family of Qatar in the next few days, known as a Palace in the Sky, to become the new Air Force One. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, I want to get to some breaking news, as it were. And that is the United States and China have announced a deal to set aside tariffs for the most part for the next 90 days while they work out a final deal. It means that the tariffs of Chinese goods coming into America will be dropped from 145% to 30%. American goods going into China will be tariffed at just 10%. It's a remarkable turn of events secured by Scott Bessent. In fact, he had something to say about it just a short time ago, and here it is.
We have reached an agreement on a 90-day pause and substantially moved down the tariff levels. Both sides on the reciprocal tariffs will move their tariffs down 115%. We had very robust discussions. Both sides showed great respect. It was a chance for me to meet the Chinese delegation. The vice premier I had previously had only a video call with. Ambassador Jameson was familiar with two of the other leaders on the delegation from his previous time. So there was very good personal interaction. Both countries represented their national interests very well. We concluded that we have shared interest, and we both have an interest in balanced trade. The U.S. will continue moving towards that.
Yeah. That's good news. In fact, it's such good news that they've made a deal here. Let's look at the futures again. The futures, as we open Monday trading at the stock market, now it shows futures of the Dow up over 1,000 points, 2.5%. The S&P 500 up over 3.15%. The NASDAQ up over 4%. Could be a whale of a day for people on all the markets. The NASDAQ at almost 21,000. S&P at 5,800. The Dow back at 42.5. 42,353. On its way up. So the stock market soaring. So this trade deal apparently in place. Both the U.S. and China agreed to take the aforementioned actions by Wednesday this week. So in about 48 hours. Also, according to Fox Business, the two countries highlighted the importance of sustainable, long-term, and mutually beneficial economic and trade relationships. So China couldn't take it. That's the takeaway. China couldn't take it. We knew that. We're the biggest market. And Donald Trump's about to sign an executive order bringing down drug prices. This is a big deal. Democrats not sure what to do about that one. He'll sign an executive order that will reduce prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices 30 and 80%. I'm not sure how that happens. We need details. They will rise throughout the world in order to equalize and for the first time in many years bring fairness to America, he said about the tariffs. I'll be instituting a most favored nations policy whereby the United States will pay the same price as the nation that pays the lowest price anywhere in the world. Well, we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. All right, so back to this jet. The 747-8 that's apparently going to be gifted to the United States and the Trump administration from the royal family of Qatar. As you can imagine, it's raising legitimate questions about how such a thing can be done, and with the idea that Trump could use a post-presidency is also raising alarms all over official Washington and, of course, with the anti-Trump crowd for sure. And to be honest, I want to know more myself, because the Constitution specifically forbids the president from taking gifts from foreign kings and countries. But this wouldn't be going to the president, not technically. It would go to the Department of Defense. Those are the people that own Air Force One. And that's the idea of this jet. But the red flags are there, and they should be. This is something that should be taken slowly, explained clearly if it is to happen, and understood not to benefit the president in a financial way directly. In February, President Trump weighed in on the extended delays of Air Force One and a new delivery for a new plane. When the Qatar idea was first floated back in February, here's what he had to say. Listen.
No, I'm not happy with Boeing. It takes them a long time to do, Air Force One. We gave that contract out a long time ago. It's a fixed price contract, and I'm not happy with the fact that it's taking so long. And we may do something else. We may go and buy a plane or get a plane or something, but I'm not happy with the fact that it's taking Boeing so long. There's no excuse for it. And they had a fixed price contract. I made that deal. And now they're losing a lot of money, and they'd like to see if they can, up the price. But I make fixed price deals. I don't like time and material deals.
Sir, the only other commercial aircraft maker that could make a plane that big is Airbus. Would you consider?
No, I would not consider Airbus over Boeing. No, but I could buy one that was used and convert it. I could buy one from another country, perhaps, or get one from another country. So we're looking at other alternatives.
Buy one or get one from another country, looking at other alternatives. Apparently, this was on the table back then when he was on Air Force One. Here's how it was being reported by at least one of the outlets out there. Listen.
ABC News exclusive. The Trump administration is preparing to accept a luxury jet from the royal family of Qatar in what may be the most valuable gift ever given to the United States by a foreign government. Sources familiar with the arrangement say the Boeing 747-8, known as a Palace in the Sky, will be available for use by President Trump as the new Air Force One. When he leaves office, ownership of the aircraft will be transferred to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation. The White House and DOJ did not immediately respond to requests for comment on this.
Yeah, that's the question. If it is then sent to the Trump Library for use by then former President Trump, is it an ethical concern? Many members of Congress say they have the right to weigh in and vote as whether or not this gift is accepted. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, another big weekend win for the President. Zelensky said he's ready to meet with Putin directly in Turkey come Thursday, face to face. President Zelensky, President Putin, face to face. Who got this done? President Trump. I'll be back with Greg Wrightstone after this. Well, coming today, a deregulation of your house, courtesy of Chris Wright, the Secretary of Energy, and, of course, Donald Trump and the Trump administration. That's right, 47 changes, regulations, mostly straight-out elimination of regulations on things like your dishwasher, your stove, your toilet, your shower head. Yeah, remember when Donald Trump said they're going to make showers great again? Well, here he is. And joining me now, Gregory Wright-Stone, geologist and the executive director of the CO2 Coalition, Arlington, Virginia. Gregory, nice to see you again.
Oh, good to be on with you. This is really, really, really big, Steve. We've been expecting Chris Wright, Lee Zeldin, Burgum, and even Sean Duffy at Transportation.
Yeah.
All of these regulatory agencies have been, just over the last 4 years, just been pushing out restrictions on all of your viewers' freedoms, just systematically eliminating their ability to choose what kind of car to drive, how to heat their home, what temperature to heat or cool their home, how much water comes out of your shower, how long it takes to do. I could go for an hour about everything that they're, again, systematically have been stripping away the freedoms to choose. And yesterday on Fox News, thankfully, Chris Wright, a colleague of mine at Department of Energy, announced that today he'll be announcing the elimination, straight out elimination of 47 regulations, a whole laundry list, dishwashers, freezers, refrigerators, walk-in. I mean, this is great. We've been expecting it again. And Steve, I'm really proud that we've actually played a small role in this, in that about a month ago, we published a document, a 47-page report by Drs. Richard Lindzen and William Happer, some of the preeminent physicists of our time, and we actually hand delivered that. It was scientific document based on our legal strategy that will enable Chris and Zeldin and the rest of them to face the legal challenges that are sure to come. And we hand delivered this report and a cover letter to Zeldin, Chris Wright, Burgum, and 4 other heads. We delivered to the Office of Management and Budget, top people there who promised they would put it in their hands directly. And 2 weeks later, here we are. And so it's been a wild ride, but Steve, we've talked for years now. It feels like we were facing a headwind over the last several years.
Oh, to say the least, we're look, everything
the winds
in our
are
house,
back.
how you wash your dishes, how you use the toilet. You mentioned heating and cooling your home. It didn't anything inside your house, and strangely enough, the dishwasher was the most regulated single appliance, but they're all regulated. Look, I made jokes on this program 10 years ago that they're going to outlaw campfires, and then a couple of years ago during the Biden administration, I actually saw campfires because of particulate were being restricted. So the things that I was joking about 10 years ago, they actually thought was a serious pursuit of controlling us. And then I'm looking at another extension of all this is meat consumption, just outside of this realm of appliances. But in the EU, they continue to try to control what people eat. So how you heat your home, how you cool your home, how you travel, what you eat. When they start controlling what you eat, it's the last, peg to fall, I guess.
It's the nanny. To call it the nanny state does a disservice to nannies.
Fair enough.
It's again just this regulatory overreach and abuse of their power. They have the power to do it, so they want to do it. And why are they doing it? It's all based on the underpinning of all of this. Really, is what's called the endangerment finding. It's in 2009, the Obama EPA determined that carbon dioxide, CO2, was a pollutant, and because of that, they could regulate it. And they have used that and used it. All of these regulations go right back to that, the endangerment finding that CO2 is not a pollutant. They call it the demon molecule. Here at the CO2 Coalition, we call it the miracle molecule. Our unofficial motto here, as you know, is we love CO2 and so should you, because of the wonderful benefits that are accruing both to our ecosystems and to humanity. Life is good. Life is getting better. Ecosystems are thriving. Deserts are shrinking. You're being lied to on a daily basis about this fake climate crisis. And again, here at the CO2 Coalition, we're doing something about it. We're telling people the truth about the benefits of the combination of modest warming and more CO2. We should celebrate it.
When I was in first grade, second grade maybe, they called it the gas of life, CO2. It was not a poison. It was not a gas. It's what gives Earth life, right?
It is. And Steve, we're doing these series of state and regional reports. You've probably seen our report on the Midwest. We include Michigan in that, and the 7 states of the Midwest. And we see each place we look at actually what's happening. And we find that heat waves are actually declining. We find that agricultural production across all sections of America and the world, for that matter, are exploding. Crop production is outpacing population growth. Isn't that a good thing? I think it's a good thing, and it's directly related to warming and more CO2. And what they're doing, I don't know why they're doing it. As a scientist, it's my job not to determine why they're doing it. I can't see inside men's and women's souls to see what their motivation is. It's our job here at the CO2 Coalition as scientists to say, okay, this is what you're being told, and this is what the truth is. These are the facts. And that's what we try to bring to you and your listeners. And we're going to continue doing it. It's really fun. I'm finishing up on our Arkansas report, and that's fascinating in that the southeast of the United States, including Arkansas, we're actually seeing declining temperatures over the last.
It's remarkable, isn't it? You know, when you add up all the facts, and you get people in there and say, look at the facts and reflect on the facts, suddenly 47 regulations are dismissed or gotten rid of. Gregory Wrightstone, I commend you. You've been a warrior in all of this, an absolute warrior in all of it. It's the CO2 Coalition. You can look them up, Arlington, Virginia. Gregory, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it, man. They've been on the front line of this thing for years, getting it done for you and me. I'll be right back. All right, well, the executive director, the deputy director, I should say, of the FBI, Dan Bongino, former talk show host. I'm not going to be the director or deputy director of the FBI, I'm quite sure, but Dan Bongino, with a background in law enforcement, was tagged for the job. He says the illegal alien criminals and child predators are next in this ongoing crackdown around the country. They're going to focus on these predators, people convicted of treating children poorly, of crimes. Yeah. The workforce has been working overtime on task force operations to remove dangerous illegal aliens from the country. The work continues. If you came here illegally and prey on our citizens, your days here are numbered. Are numbered. You can't just come here as a predator and expect to be treated, well, like anything other than the criminal you really are. Not sure how you would arrive at any other conclusion, but that's the way it is. Some people just think that, I don't know, some people just think that they should be able to come and roam and do as they please. Some people you live by think that. Did you know scammers can literally steal your home right out from under you? The FBI calls it house stealing. It's a growing real estate scam targeting American homeowners. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee, and file it with your local recorder's office. And just like that, your home title has been transferred out of your name. Then they can take out loans using your equity as collateral, even sell the property behind your back. You won't even know it's happening. Not until you start getting those nasty grams in the mailbox. So let me ask you, when was the last time you checked your home's title? Have you ever done it? If you're like me, the answer was never. Exactly what scammers are counting on. That's why I trust Home Title Lock and their $1 million triple lock protection. Here's what you get. Immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property. Urgent alerts if there are any changes. And if fraud should happen, their U.S.-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud, restore your title at no additional cost. And the best part is I've teamed up with Home Title Lock to give you a free title history report so you can find out if you're already a victim and access your personal title expert, a $250 value. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. Use my promo code Gruber. Click on the link in the description. HomeTitleLock.com. Promo code is Gruber. Get the protection and the peace of mind you deserve. HomeTitleLock.com. Promo code Gruber. Sleep well tonight. I'll be right back. All right, I just mentioned it here before the break. Dan Bongino. He is focusing heavily now. Dan Bongino, the deputy director of the FBI. Illegal alien criminals, child predators, the target. Child predators are the target Paul Hutchinson joining me now, the executive producer of The Sound of Freedom and the founder of the Child Liberation Foundation. Paul, nice to have you back on the program.
Thanks, Steve. It's great to see you again.
It's good to see you and all the work you've done. Sound of Freedom, what an eye-opening experience, and not in a good way. I'm glad that one had a happy ending. Too many do not. But what about the FBI's 764 Predator investigation and Dan Bongino and all the others saying, look, we're cracking down on these predators, these human traffickers. There's got to be some feeling of optimism in there for you.
I wish, we're fighting a dark war. And Steve, this is the 764. It's not just a group. This is an ideology. There are hundreds of organizations just like this all over the internet that are targeting children, that are using sextortion and other things to be able to blackmail them and get them to do worse and worse things. In fact, this is one that is not just getting the children to send explicit photos and then they blackmail those to get more. The 764 and other organizations like this are blackmailing children to go as far as mutilating their pets, mutilating themselves, and even suicide. This is a very evil movement of people trying to topple the good governments and create chaos. It's a cult. It's a Satanistic ideology that is targeting our children, and it's incredibly important for us as parents to be aware of these things so that we can keep our children safe.
So 250 investigations and counting from the FBI. That's what's been reported here in the last few days into 764. By the way, created in 2021. And apparently this has to do with a zip code in Texas. I'm not sure about all of this, but
it was a 15-year-old kid. It was a 15-year-old kid who he lived in that zip code, decided he's been, we look at what's coming into our homes through our media, through Hollywood and others that are targeting our children and their mindset. And all of a sudden, now this kid, he's been arrested. He's got 80 years in prison now.
How old is he now?
He's now over 20 years old. He's over 20 now. This was like 5 years ago when he first put together the organization. But understand this.
Hold on, I got to ask you this. Was he a victim originally? Is that what spawned this?
Here, Steve, that's the problem globally. When I was I led 70 undercover child rescue missions in 15 countries.
Right.
And I came to an understanding that sadly, the victims were victims themselves. Now, this doesn't justify their behavior in any way. I tell people, listen, I'm not a sympathizer of anybody who harms a child. However, if we're going to fix this problem, we need to understand where it's coming from.
Break the cycle.
People hurting other people. Yes, we've got to break that cycle. We've got to keep our children safe. And if they're sucked into something like this, we need to get them the help they need immediately. I talk about that in depth in the Sound of Freedom book that's coming out next month, in depth about what we can do as parents to keep our children safe, what kind of things that we can identify when they're going off track, and what we need to do as humanity to fix this problem, because it is a generational problem with hurt people hurting other people.
Yeah, sextortion, cybercrime, child sexual exploitation, assault, kidnapping, even murder. Associated with the 764 group and all of its darkness, to say the least. They target kids 8 to 17 generally, but, I don't think they have any boundaries per se. How do we break groups like this? And this is just one of many. How do they get kids to, they've got carving their own names and so forth into their arms, so they call it basically a form of branding, if you will.
Absolutely.
So there's subjugation to this group. How do we get a child that far gone into a group like this?
Sadly, when you're not paying attention to your kids, these things start to happen. People will leave the movie Sound of Freedom, or they'll finish reading the book The Sound of Freedom, and they'll say, okay, what do I want to do something. Well, the worst thing you can do is go to Mexico and try to go undercover and rescue kids. You're going to get shot. The best thing you can do is go home and hug your children. Because the majority of kids that get trafficked come from broken homes and runaways and a broken foster care program. And children in our own homes are being targeted with their gaming platforms. This is where a lot of things like the 764 get their victims, is they go onto these gaming platforms pretending to be another 12-year-old, another 13-year-old, and extorting your child into sending explicit photos and then saying, listen, these are going to go other places unless you send more explicit, more, and pretty soon. And they actually get promoted within their organizations, the 764 and other organizations. These predators will get promoted based on how far they can get these kids to go. And when I say how far, all the way to murder, all the way to suicide. The FBI has identified this as a domestic terrorism situation. One of the biggest problems that we face as America, yet the U.S. doesn't even, most parents haven't even heard of stuff like this. So it's so important that we're paying attention to what our kids are doing online. It's so important that we have a relationship with them where they can come to us and say, hey, this doesn't feel right. This happened. You know, I screwed up, Dad. Sorry, I sent this picture, but now it's going worse and worse and worse because these guys will not stop, because they're getting accolades from their other 764 guys. And some of these children have been found to then become perpetrators. These guys have so much dirt, quote unquote, on these kids that they then push them to try to do other things like bomb threats or suicides or mutilating other kids, etc. This is happening all the time, and we need to be aware of the online threats that are happening in our country.
Absolutely true. You know, is there nothing we can do? You look at an Elon Musk. You look at some of these are very bright people that have created systems. And look, there's got to be some way that AI can help us root some of this stuff out, I would think. I mean, there are things that can help us here, you would think. I mean, I don't know, Paul, but I feel like there's something we can do besides just sitting idly by or sending rescue missions into Mexico to save one child in 1,000 or whatever it turns out to be, right?
Absolutely. Well, and again, us as parents can do something every day by having that healthy relationship with our kids. But yes, I believe that things like child trafficking could be eradicated immediately with the technology that we have today. We've got AI. We have, I mean, literally, I walked through 3 airports yesterday and I didn't even take out my ID. Why? Because boom, they had my face flashed up on whatever camera that was there and immediately was pushed through. I came into the country. And so they have the ability to be able to track what's going on if they put the resources into really fixing this problem. This online predator stuff, this could go away immediately. So yes, we need to do more individually in our families, in our communities, and in our governments to keep our children safe.
And pay close attention to what your kids are doing online. Look, you might look innocent, but they can click off a screen as soon as you walk in the room. You need to have access. We do. If you have minor children in the house, you have access to what they're, if they don't like it, too bad. Paul Hutchinson, greatly appreciate you being here. I do. You don't be so long between visits. I mean, we need to talk about this more. I mean, it's
I would love that.
Destroying lives, Paul. Thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, but Paul Hutchinson, he's the executive producer of The Sound of Freedom. The internet is a dark and dangerous place if you don't know what you're doing. Can be. Can be life-altering and not in a good way. I'll take a break and be back on The Steve Gruber Show. We were talking earlier with Greg Wrightstone about 47 regulations being dumped when it comes to home appliances. The question is, will it unshackle the folks in the HVAC community, your furnace, your air conditioner? Jorge Alvarez is the VP at iGas USA, U.S. Air Conditioning Crisis, is what they're concerned about. Look, they keep changing the refrigerant. And I know this because I had to have one serviced last year. They said, well, the price per pound, that's how they measure coolant, right, was going from $8 to over $100. And it might take several pounds to fill an air conditioner. Jorge, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Steve.
I think I'm on the right track here. It was like $8 a pound, and then it was going to be well over $100 a pound, and you could take, heck, 15 pounds to recharge an air conditioning system. I mean, you're talking about $1,200, $1,500. That's not affordable to the average American family, quite simply. So what's going on?
Well, and thank you, Steve, for speaking with me today. The issue is 50 to 70% of Americans today are living paycheck to paycheck. In a world where we can't afford to be pillaged the way we are, the EPA back in October of 2023 enacted the HVAC management rule. Now, let me step back one moment. If we go back 20 years ago with the ozone layer, the ozone was being depleted and CFCs, refrigerants, were a culprit, and the Montreal Protocol brought about the phase down of CFCs. Now, what's happened now is the HFCs, the new refrigerants that were introduced 15 years ago, now are contributing to global warming. So the Kigali Agreement brought about...
Those are the claims, Jorge. Anyhow, go on.
Exactly. But I want everyone to understand the scenario. So
right.
Now it's the HFCs, and if we believe in global warming, the HFCs contribute to global warming. What's happened now is the EPA, under President Trump, enacted the AIM Act, the phase down of these HFCs. But in October of 2023, during the Biden administration, I don't know what happened at the EPA where they introduced the management rule, the HVAC management rule. The HVAC management rule mandated that the manufacturers of air conditioning systems must utilize one of two refrigerants, which are both semi-flammable. And in that process, because the refrigerant is patented, one of them is patented, there is a major crisis today where there isn't enough refrigerant to go around. The sad part is that the vast majority of all air conditioning systems sold in the United States are manufactured abroad, mainly in Mexico. And it comes across to the United States tax-free, tariff-free through the North American Trade Act. But more importantly, the refrigerant is coming from China. So the Chinese government and the Chinese factories are profiting. The Mexican government and the Mexican people are profiting because over 100,000 jobs, U.S. jobs, are in Mexico today, manufacturing air conditioning systems today for America. These air conditioning systems used to be manufactured in the U.S. Now they're manufactured there. So the Mexican government is profiting and the patent holders are profiting. And who's paying? The U.S. government, because they don't receive the tariffs they should be receiving. But more importantly, Steve, your brothers, your family, your neighbors, my neighbors, everybody, we're paying more for refrigerant gas today and for air conditioning systems today. Go back to 2017 and compare a price of an air conditioning system installed to a price today. It's so much more.
Astronomical. It's astronomically different. So here's the thing. You see the Secretary of Energy, Wright, continues to scale these things back. Chris Wright. Are you hoping for a reprieve in the HVAC industry? Look, I saw this coming, and I have a home warranty that I got when I bought the new house, and I had some questions about that. But I had to have my air conditioner fixed. So I sat and I talked to these techs who were doing all this. That's how I found out the cost of what was happening. And these companies, they're concerned because nobody can afford it. First of all, the cost of new air conditioning through the roof. The cost of fixing a broken air conditioner through the roof. I mean, just unbelievable stuff here, Jorge. Can it be corrected, and how so?
Okay. Air conditioning contractors today They're the number one supporter of getting this resolved because they're the ones facing the consumers and having to give them the bad news. They're the ones who cannot obtain, they can't buy the refrigerant. It's not even available. We're talking about 18 to 20-week back order for the refrigerant gas. So, how do we fix this? Mr. President, if you knew this was going on, you would fix this. Mr. Lee Zeldin at the EPA, you've already said you're going to fix this. We need to fix this and we need to fix this now. The problem is here. We're living it now. The solution is remove the HVAC management rule and allow the manufacturers of air conditioning systems to utilize any refrigerant they feel they should use, all as long as we meet the AIM Act. We have the United States under the AIM Act has a benchmark on refrigerant GWP, global warming potential refrigerants that are mandated we must stay below. Allow the manufacturers to simply stay below it. The rules are already set in place. There's no reason to do what they did in October 2023 and create the mandates that they created and the restrictions that they created. It's unachievable and it's unrealistic.
Yeah. Big shortage. R454B and R32. These are the A2L refrigerants. They're in big shortage. You can look it up. Honeywell announcing a 42% surcharge on the product just a couple of weeks ago. So there's the problem. It's outlined. Jorge Alvarez, VP at iGas USA. I greatly appreciate you being here. Come back when you can to give us an update, Jorge. I really appreciate you coming here today.
Very good. Thank you very much.
There you have it. So if you have an air conditioner problem today, you have a bigger problem than you might realize. Yeah. All right. Can't stand, 95 degrees in their house if you have COPD or emphysema. Well, could be a medical crisis on the way to America as well because of this. You're up to speed. We'll have sports with Brock after this. right, time to check in on sports with my good friend Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. In the NBA playoffs yesterday, a pair of Game 4s in Round 2. Oklahoma City evened up their series at 2 games apiece with the Denver Nuggets with a 92-87 victory in Denver. And the Indiana Pacers took a 3-1 series lead over the Cleveland Cavaliers with an easy 129-109 win in Indianapolis. In the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, the Dallas Stars took a 2-1 series lead on the Winnipeg Jets in Round 2 with a 5-2 victory in Dallas. And the Florida Panthers evened up their series with the Toronto Maple Leafs at 2 games apiece with a 2-0 shutout. In Major League Baseball yesterday, American League winners included Boston, the Chicago White Sox, and Texas. National League winners included the New York Mets, St. Louis, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Sepp Straka won the PGA Tour's Truist Championship in Philadelphia, and Kyle Larson won the NASCAR Advent Health 400 at Kansas Speedway for his 3rd win of the year. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. Greatly appreciated all of that, yeah. I'm just reading about all these shortages. 454B, Solstice from Honeywell, yeah. A 20-pounder is $2,500. Yep, a 20-pounder is $2,500. HVAC contractors facing the challenges. I mean, what he just shared with us is the cold, hard truth, freezing out consumers. I mean, I can use all these little cute things all day long. Anyhow, we'll see how that plays out. I didn't realize most of the HVAC gear was manufactured in Mexico. Doesn't surprise me. I thought he was going to say China, but he said Mexico. Okay, so it is. But not good. Not a good thing. Not for consumers, as he pointed out, half of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And, well, I just wonder if Secretary Wright, Energy Secretary Chris Wright, can weigh in on this and get this figured out and sorted out and help out you, the American consumer. That's what we're trying to figure out. All right, coming up in the next hour here, we got a lot to talk about. We'll have State Representative Mike Harris from Waterford will be here. Speaker Matt Hall. Ivy will join us, of course. A lot to cover here on the Steve Gruber Show, so sit tight. We'll be back. All right, blasting off another hour here of the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you on board for this rocket ship ride. It's going to be one today. We'll talk about that coming up. Remember, it can have a triggering effect, this program. You might have great enthusiasm about America before it's done, which we greatly appreciate. So there you go. 3 big things you need to know this hour on the Steve Gruber Show. Number 1, Real ID. Real ID. It's landed, but flyers still are not grounded even if you don't have one. Number 2, in Michigan, the Democrat-led government spent millions, tens of millions of dollars to service illegal immigrant services for legal aid and such. Yeah, and number 3, it is all about a deal with China today. All about a deal with China. What do I mean by that? Well, Scott Bessent announcing a short while ago that a deal has been reached on tariffs with the nation of China, and they will set aside most of the tariffs for 90 days while they try to sort things out. It means the 145% tariffs U.S. has been imposing on China will be dropped to just 30%, a drop of 115% by Wednesday. Meanwhile, China will drop its tariffs on U.S. products down to 10% also by Wednesday, we're told. What does this mean? It means the Dow futures have jumped 2.5%, S&P 500 up 3%, and NASDAQ futures up 4%. It's going to be a big day on Wall Street. The numbers are rocketing up. They'll come back. They'll go up. They'll go down. Some people will take some money off the table, but it is a very big deal. Yeah, as we cut a deal. The fact of the matter is China couldn't take it. It wasn't great for us in some ways, but China could not take it. We are their biggest market. Donald Trump's also going to sign a deal. Executive orders to be signed on reducing regulations on 47 different items, including shower heads, your dishwasher, and other items inside your home, all being rolled back by an executive order today. Also in the future, Donald Trump's going to sign an executive order to reduce, he says, the price of prescription drugs. I'm not clear on how that's going to happen, but Most Favored Nation says, he says it'll reduce the price of drugs to the lowest price of any nation globally. We'll see how that works. But it leaves the Democrats kind of slack-jawed and glassy-eyed. What are they going to do if Donald Trump lowers the price of prescription drugs? What if Donald Trump takes every single card out of their deck and plays it for himself? Leaves them wondering what to do now, doesn't it? Leaves them in a tough spot. Meanwhile, his 17th week back in office, Donald Trump will be heading to the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. Qatar is offering the United States a brand new not brand new, a greatly enhanced 747-8 jumbo jet called the Palace in the Sky. And if you've seen pictures inside this rig, well, it is a palace in the sky. They're offering it to us as use of Air Force One. Now, the question for me, and Anthony raised this earlier, and I have the same question. How can you trust a jet coming from a foreign country? I guess the jet's 13 years old, but it's worth $400 million reported value, $400 million, to be used as Air Force One until near the end of Donald Trump's second term here, and then it would be turned over to the Trump Library for the then former president to use post-presidency. But is that a gift to the president? Is that a bribe? That's the question being asked. Is that covered under the emollients clause? Maybe. Now, technically speaking, the jet doesn't go to Donald Trump. It goes to the Department of Defense, and then it doesn't go to him directly. It goes to the foundation that runs his library. But that's skirting awful close to the flame, isn't it? Icarus, isn't that pretty close to the fire? I would say. Anyhow, so we're gonna take a close look at that as it continues to be discussed. Now, back to the prescription drug idea. I want to go to bite 9 here, Anthony. I didn't mention that to you, but I do. And when I say Donald Trump is in swiping cards from the deck played by progressives and Democrats and the far left fringe sometimes, well, I mean it. Listen to this.
Margaret, let me make a campaign promise to you, and you can repeat this, play this tape over if I'm elected president. And that is, if I am elected president, I'm going to cut prescription drug costs in this country by 50%. so that we are not paying any more than other major countries are paying. Maybe we can.
Well, there you have it. 50%, and that's the same thing that Donald Trump says. Most favored nation, dropping our prescription prices to whatever the lowest price is paid anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. We'll bring the price right down to the same place. All right? We'll bring the price right down to the same place. Let's see. Speaking of spending, here's something closer to home here in Michigan, where I am. The headline, Michigan's Democratic-led government spent $46 million on services for legal and illegal immigrant services in 2024. Michigan's taxpayers would be wise to keep a close eye on how Democrat-led state government has been spending its money, your money. In documents obtained by the digital outlet Michigan Enjoyer, it is revealed that the Office of Global Michigan is spearheading programs for those they call newcomers. It's a nice euphemism for illegal aliens. Using the documents received from the state, the Enjoyer claims that they show $46 million in public dollars used in 2024 just to fund legal services and some housing subsidies. Administered through a network of nonprofits with grants, the program is coordinated by the Office of Global Michigan at the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. According to the Enjoyer, $1 million went to the Refugee Development Center, home to the Newcomer Center, where they promote inclusivity and social justice. Additional handouts for immigrant services, including $476,000 to migrant legal aid. They disseminate Know Your Rights guides. Lighthouse Immigrant Advocates, $662,000. They provide a guide telling illegals not to open your doors to ICE. Well, the broader implications are quite clear. Critics contend that such funding is not only undermining federal immigration laws, but also sends the wrong message to both immigrants and Michigan citizens struggling with housing, health care, economic insecurity, and more. As prices continue to rise and state agencies plead poverty for local programs, how could you end up with almost $50 million in support of people here illegally? That's the question. $50 million. People here illegally. Yeah. You tell me how that makes any sense. And the answer is it doesn't make any sense at all. This part of the program brought to you by my friends at Wolverine Water. Wolverine Water Systems, Michigan's premier water treatment company. Been here for 75 years. Michigan made, Michigan service, Michigan installed. It's a Michigan company. Support the home team. WolverineWaterSystems.com. I do. I've been using Wolverine Water since well before I ever did this program. Yeah, they're the real deal, and I appreciate who they are. Speaking of Michigan companies, how about the best dog food available anywhere? That's right, Great Lakes Pet Food. GreatLakesPetFood.com. You can find out more about the best dog food made in West Michigan with real turkey, real chicken, real pork. It's really good. Look, Cody's like 110 years old. My dog, okay, she's 16 years, 1 month. That's old. She's been eating Great Lakes Pet Food for the last, 6 years? And she's 16 and just cruising. Crazy but true, anyhow. Good stuff. Good stuff. I'll take a break. When we come back, I've got State Representative Mike Harris from Waterford is going to join me. Maybe we'll get some answers to some of these questions I have. You'll have to find out after the break. Back to it now. My next guest is State Representative Mike Harris of Waterford, Michigan. He published an op-ed in the Detroit News calling on the Michigan Senate to approve the Public Safety and Violence Prevention Trust Fund legislation. Been sitting in committee without action after passing the House with overwhelming bipartisan support last month. But it seems that the Senate here in Michigan doesn't move on much of anything, certainly not if it's promoted by the GOP. Mike, welcome to the program. Good to have you back.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
You know, for a man in my condition, I feel relatively well. Thank you for asking. Let's talk about this. The Public Safety and Violence Prevention Trust Fund, what is it and why is it important to you?
Yeah, so, Steve, as you know, I spent 26 years in law enforcement. I've seen what crime does to communities and how it affects all of us. I mean, it's a huge ripple effect on everything from property values to, how our families operate, how we pay for insurance. All those things are affected by violent crime. So Michigan does not have a current permanent funding mechanism for law enforcement. And this is something that I've been pushing for since I got into office.
Wait a second.
I'll give a huge.
Hold on. What do you mean no funding mechanism for law enforcement? How could that be true? How do police officers and first responders get funded?
Sure. A lot of it has to do with, local funding, whether it be through millages or local general funds. But Michigan has not, as a state, done a whole lot to give a permanent funding solution. Sometimes we've had some one-time solutions or we've helped people get through police academies, things like that. But, we need a strict standard fund for combating violent crime.
Wow. Okay. Carry on.
Yeah. So this plan would give us $115 million, which is about 1% of the sales tax revenue here in Michigan. And that would be dispersed. The first $72 million would go to cities, villages, and townships based on crime rates. And $1.5 million would go to our Crime Victim Rights Fund, help bolster that a little bit. Another 1.5 would go to these community violence intervention programs. And that looks different all around Michigan, right? Every region kind of has its own thing that it's trying out or dealing with to combat violent crime.
Correct.
And then there's another $40 million, there's another $40 million that is separate that goes to our Michigan sheriffs. In Michigan, we have a lot of rural areas. These guys cover so much ground and provide ancillary services for, a lot of our local communities. So they're separated based purely on the size of their sheriff's departments versus crime rates.
So why is it sitting in Senate? I mean, obviously it sounds like the folks in the House, Republicans and Democrats alike, like your idea, think that it's a good idea, put some additional funding out there for, especially because you say it's basically weighted on who has the higher incident of crime, so therefore it'd be weighted a little heavier to the places that need more attention. That makes sense to me. Put more officers on the ground, more community policing, things that work, try your best practices. But why is it sitting there?
Yeah, in my opinion, obviously this is a huge priority for me. I think we need to get the money to our locals as quickly as possible. It is budget season, so I'm sure that probably has created a little bit of a slowdown in the Senate. But my partner in this, Rep. Farhat, who's a Democrat, we've both been working on this tirelessly since the beginning of the session, and we're really hoping the Senate gives us a hearing here soon, and we can share this plan and advocate for our Michigan communities.
Any idea from any feedback from the folks in the Senate? I'm sure your Republican colleagues seem to think it's probably okay, although I guess the pushback might be, well, they funded it all these years without this. Why do we need this now? I mean, maybe that's is that the pushback you get?
I haven't gotten any pushback.
Well, there you go.
The Senate voted this out last year, a different version, but very similar. Voted this out last year. I would anticipate this is going to receive support in the Senate. We just need to get it to a hearing so we can talk about it and advocate for it.
Strange how nothing seems to happen in a timely fashion. Well, Mike, I hope you get it done. We'll see what happens. And when you do or don't, come back and give us an update, would you?
Oh, 100%. I appreciate you, Steve.
Appreciate you, my friend. Mike Harris from Waterford here in Michigan. It's the Public Safety Trust Fund. 1% of sales tax. What we had a $9 billion surplus, right? When this administration took over, we had a $9 billion surplus. Where is it? Where's that money? Do we get police officers out of that? Roads, were they fixed? No, that's right, they were not. Here's a quick update for you. Despite the federal deadline requiring real ID compliant identification for air travel by last week, May 7th, Homeland Security officials confirmed that travelers without the updated licenses will still be allowed to fly after additional screening. So if you want to stay on line longer, you can. The announcement came as long lines formed outside government buildings in major cities and state offices to meet the surge in last-minute applications, according to the Associated Press. So they're going to additional screening will get you on the flight. That's not going to last forever. I just suggest you get the ID. I think there's that self-responsibility of the law. They need to know, give themselves that extra time. And if they do that, they shouldn't have an issue, said Thomas Carter of the TSA. Well, we'll see. Shouldn't have an issue is not like you won't have an issue. This part of the program brought to you by my friends at NeuroGuard. If you've got kids in sports or grandkids in sports, man, you want NeuroGuard. It's a mouth guard that helps prevent concussions almost completely. Patented by Dr. Michael Hutchinson of Traverse City. This mouth guard is for athletes in all sports. And like I said, it prevents concussions almost completely down to 0.26% of the time or less. You don't have to trust me on it. They went and checked it out at Michigan State and Wayne State. It'll also help you run faster, jump higher by 16%. Again, MSU and Wayne State tested the NeuroGuard Plus, certified the results. Find out more at NeuroGuardPlus.com. Use the promo code Gruber, you'll save 10%. NeuroGuardPlus.com, promo code Gruber, you will save 10% on this, and you'll be glad you did. Keep your head in the game. Don't get a concussion. NeuroGuardPlus.com. I'll be right back. So I was talking to you earlier about the HVAC issue. We had Jorge Alvarez here in the last hour at iGas USA. There's this refrigerant shortage. It's a big deal. And you've also got the price of new air conditioning going through the roof because of the refrigerants that are used. It creates a problem because there's this log jam. You can't get it, and when you can get it, it's wildly expensive, this refrigerant. So I would ask you, what if you could cool your home for almost next to nothing? What if you could save 80 or 90% on heating your home? There's a Michigan company that has perfected this hybrid geothermal system. The company's called Well Connect, and I bring this to your attention because I think you need to know about it. Well Connect is a company that uses if you have a well, right, in your yard, if you have a well in your yard, Well Connect geothermal could be the product you're looking for. You don't have to, geothermal used to be you had to dig this big deal out in the yard. You don't have to do that anymore. If you got a water well, you already have half of a geothermal system. It's true. If you had a Well Connect system, and it can be done as little as 8 hours, you can start saving big. You'll cut your heating costs by half or more, extend the life of your furnace, cool your home almost for free, all without major renovation. It's the fastest, most affordable way to bring geothermal home. And you can learn more at wellconnectgeo.com. It's made in Michigan, built for your well. Wellconnectgeo.com. If you're a do-it-yourself person, you can save even more. Look, what we've learned with this system over the years, this is a patented system designed by a University of Michigan engineer. Takes a corkscrew design in the well, right? All you need is a place for the fresh water to go out. That's it. And you'll save 70, 80, 90% of your bills. And you'll be amazed. I mean, there are thousands of these in places. Plus, all over the country. New York State, they got a bunch of them now. All over the country. You can do it yourself or hire your favorite HVAC people to do it. WellConnectGeo.com. If you haven't heard about this, look it up. WellConnectGeo.com. Remarkable system. You won't be beholden to the price of natural gas or heating oil or anything else for that matter. All right, quick break. I'll be back. WellConnectGeo.com. Made in Michigan. Built for your well. All right, back to it now. It's been a busy day already. The tariffs are coming down, which means the stock market in about an hour is going to take off like a rocket ship is what it looks like. It looks like the Dow's going to be up 2.5%. The NASDAQ 3%. S&P 4%. Could be a great day on Wall Street, to say the least. Join me now, Speaker Matt Hall, Speaker of the Michigan House. Matt, nice to see you back.
Hey, thanks for having me, Steve.
All right. So, first of all, what do you think about the tariffs coming down? A deal with China, obviously, it impacts Michigan in manufacturing and agriculture across the board. It's another pretty big deal. You've been a strong supporter of Donald Trump pretty much through and through. You must be pretty pleased with this.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you saw when President Trump announced his tariffs that I think it was like 70 countries within a few days were lining up to make appointments to try to renegotiate with the United States, and we saw an agreement with the United Kingdom last week, and now you're seeing real progress with China, and I believe it's a 90-day pause. And so, yeah, you're seeing President Trump's plan working. It's just we got to give it time, to take an entire trade system that's weighted against the United States and fix it in the first 100 days is tough. And so we're going to have to, be patient. But you're seeing one by one President Trump's administration making progress, and you're going to see more American manufacturing as a result if we are not taken advantage of anymore by these other countries.
Yeah, and that's critical, isn't it? I mean, you look at the investments. We'd like to see some of these car companies coming to Michigan instead of Indiana and Arizona, but that might have more to do with our state policies and not the national policies, but that's something we've talked about as well. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is putting together a memo to protect the Great Lakes from invasive carp. He backs the barrier project. I wonder, though, Matt, is it too late? I mean, the DNA was found in the Chicago River. There wasn't much stand between this grass carp, this Asian carp, and the Great Lakes to begin with. Where are we on it? Have they made it in? Do we know for sure?
Yeah, so this has been something we've been working on since 2010.
Yeah, I know.
Back when I worked for Bill Schuette, the Attorney General at the time. And we could not get Obama to do anything about this. And I think a lot of his supporters, were part of the Chicago shipping industry. And, they did not want this to happen. And, I'd say the state of Illinois this whole time has been working against this. And so you had the Illinois Governor Pritzker agree to a deal where the state of Michigan would put up, I believe it was $76 million. The state of Illinois would put up a similar amount. And then the federal government would put up a significant amount of money. And we'd finally build this barrier between the Chicago rivers that have Asian carp and the Great Lakes. And you saw once Trump took office, Pritzker back out of the deal and blame Trump, blame Doge. And there was no justification for that other than, Trump derangement syndrome. And so,
well, Pritzker, he's planning to run for president. He can't give Donald Trump credit for anything anywhere ever, because he wants to be president of the United States. Who knows? He's going to run, pretty sure. So that's why that is. But go on.
Yeah, and I'll just back up. I mean, these carp, as far as we know, they're not in the Great Lakes yet, but that's why it's so urgent that we get this barrier finally built. We see that the carp are going to, they reproduce very quickly, and they eat up everything in the ecosystem, and so it really will threaten the entire Great Lakes sport fishing industry. You'll see all the fish not in the Great Lakes anymore. So we went to President Trump, myself and Governor Whitmer, and we asked him, can you get Pritzker in line? Can you back him down and let's make him do this barrier because we don't have time? And President Trump did that on Friday. He issued a memorandum reinforcing his support for this Brandon Road project. And he put the ball in Pritzker's court and said, look, the federal government is ready to do this. It's in your court, Pritzker. Honor your word, honor your deal. And Pritzker backed down when he saw that. He blinked and has come now back to the table and is now in agreement that they're going to move forward with us and the federal government on this project.
So tell me about the project. How does it work? How does it, unfold going forward?
Yeah, so essentially, they're going to build a barrier and this Brandon Road is kind of this part of the lake, right before the Great Lakes, where it's kind of a choke point. So they're going to build a barrier there and keep the Asian carp out of the Great Lakes. That's their plan. And as you know, I mean, once it gets into Lake Michigan, I mean, it'll go to all the others. And this is one of the things that I talked to President Trump about, in the Oval Office, and again when he was here in Macomb County, when we actually got to ride with him in his car and on the way to one of the events. And I tell you, he's very committed to the Great Lakes. He understands how important it is to support Michigan. And so he was there for us on it. And really, there's no one else who could have got Pritzker to back off this position. Pritzker talked a big game, but when Trump put it right in his court, he blinked. And now we're going to get the support we need to build this barrier and keep our Great Lakes safe.
Yeah, and if they're going to have a tough time, the Democrats. I'll ask you something else that Donald Trump just put right in the Democrats' court, shifting gear a little bit. And I hope they get this barrier done, and I hope the carp have not made it into southern Lake Michigan. I don't know. I think they probably have, to be honest with you, Matt. But I don't know. I hope they have not, because they're a menace. But I want to know about this prescription drug executive order coming. Trump says is going to lower the price of prescription drugs. He just keeps reaching into the Democrats' playbook and plucking important cards and saying, you know what, I'll take that one. And you're right, we should do this. Boom. Democrats are just kind of glassy-eyed and slack-jawed. What do you mean Donald Trump's going to lower prescription medication prices? Yep, that's what he's doing to help out the American people. What are they going to have left to run on?
Hmm. Well, on this prescription drug executive order to make, the United States the most favored nation, I mean, this is historic. I mean, they're going to lower drug prices 30 to 80%. And I would say this is kind of an extension of Trump's trade policy, right? I mean, the United States is subsidizing the research and development of all of these prescription drugs. And then when they go to market, they charge us some of the highest prices in the world. And then these other countries are getting these major reductions in prices. And so President Trump is just saying, we're funding a lot of the research and development, so we should get the lowest rate of any country that you offer to. So,
right.
These other countries aren't paying for all their R&D. So I think Trump is doing the right thing here, and we give him credit.
I agree with that. And we got the tariffs coming down with China. We're watching for the markets to open here. Matt, always appreciate you being here. I hope we get this project done on the Great Lakes. An important thing. Matt Hall, Speaker of the House of Michigan. Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciate you always. Straight ahead, Ivy will be here to talk more about all of it and everything that's happening today. It's all good stuff. We'll be right back. All right, back to it now. Had a great weekend. Mother's Day was terrific because Ivy is a terrific mom, and she does a great job. She's here with me. Here's Ivy now. Look at that big smile on her face.
Good morning, Steve.
Nice to see you. Happy Mother's Day. It was a great Mother's Day. We had a great day with the kids and picked a few mushrooms. A pretty good day.
Absolutely. We hope all the moms listening and watching out there had a wonderful Mother's Day as well.
Well, the day after Mother's Day is going to be wonderful for investors. It looks like this deal with the Chinese that was announced yesterday by Scott Bessent. The Dow futures right now. The Dow's going to be up 2.65%, over 1,000 points. The S&P up 3.2%. The NASDAQ up over 4%. Hello. Looks like a pretty good day so far. And then you got people like Eric Swalwell saying it's a bad day. But hear this from Scott. I want you to, yeah, he's an idiot. I want you to hear this from Scott Bessent, because here is a telling comment from the Secretary of the Treasury. Listen.
What has to happen is it has to be fair for the American people. But in January 2020, President Trump produced a template. We had an excellent trade agreement with China, and the Biden administration chose not to enforce it. The Chinese delegation basically told us that once President Biden came into office, they just ignored their obligation.
Stop right there. So let me get this straight.
Of course they did.
Biden's a weakling. The Democrats are weak, so we're just going to ignore the whole thing, which is what the Chinese did for the last 4 years until Donald Trump said, stop. We're done doing that. What do you say to that?
I mean, it's not surprising at all, because it seems as if Biden and that administration did everything that was best for other countries and not what was best for this one and the citizens of this country. So I'm not surprised to hear that at all.
No.
But I'm glad that he's enforcing this, and I'm glad that China has come to the table and said, hey, we do need to work these things out. It's not good for either country to continue with this trade war, if you will.
Yeah. So,
but hopefully this means positive things for the future for America and China.
So in my hand here, and another big story, Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, is going to meet face-to-face with Vladimir Putin in Turkey on Thursday. Who put this together? The Trump administration. Let me just run over this. President Trump and his team have gotten a trade deal with China. Secured direct talks between Russia and Ukraine.
Do you think Zelensky's going to show up? Because wasn't there there was a conversation where say, hey, let's have a ceasefire, and Putin said, no, I'm not going to have a ceasefire, but I'll meet you this week on Thursday face to face to discuss what's going to happen going forward.
Zelensky said he would. I don't know. Can he back out of it? But the list is this: trade deal with China, ceasefire between India and Pakistan, direct talks Russia and Ukraine, a reduction of drug prices. And that was just the weekend.
How terrible.
That's just the weekend.
He just can't possibly get enough done.
It's just, and so.
He's doing a great job. And this is where, having a plan of action and executing on the plan and being tough in the world politics. I mean, you do have to have a tough leader.
Yeah.
I think that America has been taken advantage of for many, many years at the cost of higher prices for all Americans.
Less security.
Less security, pharmaceuticals, higher cost in that, higher cost in energy, especially when the Democratic Party is in, because they're all about, Green New Deal.
So I had this listener send me a note here a week ago, tell me that I was totally wrong about gas prices and gas prices rising. I don't know where he lives in the great state of Michigan, and
he could live in a state that has higher gas prices because they have. Oh, he lives in Michigan.
Yeah, and the statewide average today, according to, and I use the AAA numbers, folks. I've sound like I'm pulling numbers out of my rear end. 306 is the state average, but you and I saw numerous stations in the 280s over the weekend. Numerous stations in a variety of towns, from here to places that cannot be named because they're thick with mushrooms, but in secret places across Michigan.
Yeah, we had what did we get? Probably 50 mushrooms, you think? Yesterday?
At least.
50 morels?
Yeah.
Not too bad. Not as
she got a couple as big as her fist.
Yeah, that was cool. I found the biggest one of the day, which is always nice.
Booner.
Shocker.
Yeah, shocker. Anyhow, so gas prices are down. Oil prices remain. Here's what I want to ask you about. The 747-8, the Palace in the Sky, right? So the royal family.
It kind of made me question it at first, but I think it was, who was it? There was another president that actually gifted planes to Saudi Arabia in the past. I know that we're talking about doing some opposite things here. We're receiving a plane. It does seem concerning, but I am sure that you have to go through some security measures
Well,
and
wait a second.
go through all the entire plane with making sure there aren't any bugs or.
Well, here's the thing. We have gifted F-15s, F-18s. Now you make me think about this.
Who was it? Who was it? Was it FDR that gifted Saudi Arabia to start like Saudi Arabia Airlines, something like that? Do you recall that?
I don't, but I'm gonna have to check it out. But look how much stuff we gave away in World War. We still give away to NATO countries. Oh, here's our latest, greatest jet fighter. Oh, pay us later. Give me an IOU.
Right.
So Qatar, but I have questions, and they are legitimate.
Sure.
It's a $400 million plane that's allegedly being given to the United States, and yet the plan is when Donald Trump gets close to the end of his presidency, the second term here, it'll then be sent over to the Trump Library Foundation, so he will continue to be able to use this palace in the sky plane.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know all the details.
Great. I'm not going to kid you. It does not feel great to me.
And I haven't heard it directly from the press secretary or anything about that, so I'm not exactly sure. I know that I think she said something along the line of it is a legal transaction if he does receive the plane, but it goes to the Department of Defense, correct?
Correct.
So he's very disappointed in Boeing, right? Who are supposed to be creating the new Air Force One and they haven't done it. So
Anthony just fact checked. FDR gifted the first plane to Saudi Arabia for their first plane in their fleet. You're exactly right, Ivy.
So it's not the first time that this kind of exchange has gone hand in hand with other countries, including us gifting, or I don't know what the history is in terms of us receiving planes, but I'm sure we probably received things before.
Statue of Liberty standing out there. The Resolute Desk is in the Oval Office.
True,
we get valuable things, right?
Well,
but I still feel a little hinky about it because it's a $400 million palace in the sky that Donald Trump gets to continue to use after he's president. That's the part that makes me go, anyhow, Ivy, you look great. Love you.
I love you. Thank you, Steve.
Love that color, by the way.
Thank you.
I'll take a break and be back with some final thoughts after this on the Steve Gruber Show. right, so I ran full speed into a wall on Friday. Ivy left because she was, the center of this crime. So she fled the studio. And she didn't want to answer for her crimes of running me straight into a wall on Friday. Okay, so that's not exactly how it happened. But I was playing racquetball. Yes, they still have racquetball courts. Brock just asked me in the break. In certain places. We were playing racquetball, which I like, and I guess old people do, right? Anyhow, she's not old, I am. And I ran straight into a wall hard. And it's not been right since. Things are moving here that don't belong. She said, you got a broken collarbone. I don't think I have a broken collarbone. We'll have to go talk. I'm going to speak to my doctor about this and see what it feels like. Something's moving here. Stuff's moving that's not supposed to move. That happens when you get older. So Brother Shane said, things move that aren't supposed to move. Oh, and things that are supposed to move don't. Oh, really? Wow, what does that mean? Never mind. It's for the advanced studies part of the course. It's not here for today, all right? Never mind. So, today, the stock market on fire. We're going to hear about that. We're going to hear about 47 regulations or issues with your appliances at home being set aside. Another big deal, right? We're going to hear about prescription medication prices being lowered, and it's Monday. It's just Monday, right? We've got a lot to do here in America to get things back where they belong, and we're doing it, by God. That's the beautiful thing. We're doing it. Democrats, glassy-eyed. Swalwell, Eric Swalwell, the guy from California, congressman. Trump caved to the Chinese over the weekend. He did? The American tariffs going into China, 10%. Chinese tariffs coming into America, 30%. Trump caved to the Chinese. Well, he should know he dated them. Right? He dated the spy that loved me, Eric Swalwell. Anyhow, fight the good fight and keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.
Somewhere around 400.